Welcome to the Town of Avon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. If you're interested in having a copy of the agenda, they're available on the tables to the right of the audience. This meeting is being recorded for the public record. Because of this, we request that all personal conversations are kept to a minimum and all cell phone ringers are turned off with any phone calls taken outside the chambers. Hearings on individual cases will be conducted in accordance with the board's rules of procedure. Planning staff will first introduce the case, provide a summary, and make recommendation. Petitioners will be given up to 10 minutes to present their case. Persons or group opposed to the proposal will be provided a total of 10 minutes to present objections. Persons or groups in support of the proposal may be provided with 10 minutes to present comments in support. Any individual shall be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. A person representing a group or organization shall be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. The petitioner shall then have 5 minutes for rebuttal. No further testimony will be heard unless it is at the discretion of the board. If you're interested in commenting during any public hearing, please sign up on the sheets located on the tables to the right of the audience. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the board and not to staff or the appellant. Your comment should relate directly to the case at hand. We do understand there may be several persons who wish to speak. The chair may therefore impose an alternate time limit for each person. Thank you for your assistance in facilitating a respectful, fair, and timely meeting. Again, welcome to our meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Maybe a roll call, please.
Paul Guckenberger
Here.
will show Ann Inman as absent. Catherine Ransberg.
Here.
Marcy Tashler.
Here.
Marcus Turner.
Here. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from April 21st, 2026. Did anyone have any questions or comments? And if there are none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept that we approve the meeting minutes from April 21st, 2026 as presented.
There's a motion by Mrs. Ransberg. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Tashler. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. We'll move on to requests for continuances or agenda modifications.
I'd like to make a request. I don't know if it needs to be a motion, but that we look at the special exception before the variance.
I would agree with that. Because we need to, one needs to happen before the other, if I'm correct.
Does staff or legal counsel have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I agree. I just think that if you have it on the first one, then you don't need to have the second case. If you have approval, you just move to the second case.
We need a motion.
Special exception should come first.
We need a motion to
Yes,
modify.
please.
And
Modify your agenda.
Paul, before we do that, and petitioner, you're okay with that? No, we got a thumbs up from the petitioner.
I move that we hear special exception 2601 wash and roll as the first case, followed by variance 2605 wash and roll front yard stacking as second case.
I second.
A motion by Mr. Guckenberger, a second by Mrs. Ransberg. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, rearrange things a little bit. Paul, did you have anything else under?
We do not.
Continues, okay. We'll move on to public comment. Does anyone wish to address the board at this time? And with no one coming forward, we will close public comment. We have no old business. We're going to move on to new business. And the first case we're going to hear is special exception 26-01, wash and roll.
Thank you, Chairperson Turner, members of the board. SE 26-01 is a request for special exception to allow for a car wash within Tier 1 of the US 36 overlay. A car wash is only permitted by grant of a special exception per the US 36 overlay provisions in the UDO. Just as a little bit of background, there are 3 standalone car washes that exist in Tier 1, 2 crew car washes and a prime car wash. One of those, the crew car wash on the east end of town, predates incorporation into the town, so the town didn't approve that. The other 2 were granted use variances under the old zoning ordinance by the BZA. Under the old zoning ordinance, car wash was not a permitted use in Tier 1 of the 36 overlay. When the UDO was adopted, it was changed to being a special exception use. This proposed car wash would be accessed from a private drive to the south. Let's pull up the site plan. Well, let me just actually back up. Give you the address. It's 6913 East US Highway 36. It's Lot 3 in the Stanfield Crossing subdivision. It's about 1 2/3 acres. And as you can see on the map, it's just one parcel west of the southwest corner of US 36 and Avon Avenue. The site is outlined there in red. To the east, you have the Circle K and the Brewster's Ice Cream that doesn't show up on last year's aerial photo. To the west is the 7 Brew Coffee. To the north is the funeral home. And then to the south is the school property that was the intermediate school. I believe it's elementary now this year. I want to show you the comprehensive plan. This site is located in what the comprehensive plan dubs the Midtown District. Actually, I want to kind of zoom out just for a minute to show you the map of Avon from the comp plan that highlights the focus areas. There's 6 districts identified. 4 of them are focus areas. The one we're looking at in orange is right here in the center of the town. It's called the Midtown District. And so then you also have what is called the revitalization area, which is the more automobile oriented, heavier retail commercial uses to the east all the way to the town border. And then to the west of the Midtown District is the Greenway District North, which is kind of either side of White Lick Creek and either side of US 36. And then further west, you have the Riverwalk District, which is the far east part of that here is the actual Riverwalk District component of the Easton Gray development. And then the Riverwalk District is identified as continuing west along Main Street so that it can, it encourages some similar development after Riverwalk builds out as Main Street redevelopments, as Main Street would redevelop. You have the Greenway District here, which is basically, you're going to have a bridge over White Lick Creek extending from the Riverwalk area and then connecting to the town park properties. There's the Summer Lot property on the west side of 625, and then this Town Hall Park property here that we're located at. And then that basically brings you right up to the edge of the Midtown District. So you can see the site outlined here. The orange area is recommended for mixed use. You have the existing residential to the north, and then this blue is institutional use, which are the school properties. Just taking a look at photos here, this is facing south from US 36 at the site. So the Circle K would be out of the picture just to the left, and then the 7 Brew to the right. You can actually see the vehicles stacking in the 7 Brew drive-through there. This is facing north towards 36 from the site. So you can see that funeral home there, and then the Kroger development back behind there with its strip center. And then facing east from the front of the site, there's the Circle K with its accessory car wash building with the vehicle actually coming out of the car wash. And then just facing west, the front of the 7 Brew would be the 7 Brew building would just be off to the left. And then you have the Bank of America, Taco Bell, and the office park further west along the south side of 36. So here's the site plan. The car wash would be accessed from this private drive, which actually has street signs posted as Stanfield Way. the site would be accessed here from the south. Vehicles would come up around the east side and they would pay here. They may or may not be stacked up in this area, depending, of course, on how busy it is. And then they would stack up here, wrapping, doing a 180-degree turn here in front of the building to enter the north facade adjacent to US 36, go through the building, and then they could exit back out, or they could go over to the vacuum area to the west of the building. So of course, US 36 would be here at the top. So in considering a special exception request, you have 4 required findings, and then you also have 3 optional findings that you can consider. The 4 required findings are essentially that it not be detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare, that it not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of properties in the immediate vicinity or substantially diminish or impair property values, that it be adequately served by public facilities, that it not create additional expense for public facilities or be detrimental to economic welfare or result in destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature. Those are the 4 required findings. And then we'll also talk about the 3 optional considerations laid out in the UDO, that the request meet the standards of the UDO and that it have an appropriate relationship to adjacent properties, that it makes adequate provision for public services, et cetera, and furthers amenities of light, air, recreation, and visual enjoyment. And then finally, how it does or does not align with the general objectives of the comprehensive plan. So drilling down on the first finding, that it not be detrimental to the public's health, safety, or general welfare, the petitioner's response is that the proposed use is designed with proper water management and environmental controls to prevent contamination and ensure safe, clean runoff, thereby protecting public health and safety. Additionally, be operated following local regulations and industry best practices, ensuring it does not pose threats to the general welfare of the community. We do expect that it'll meet all applicable environmental standards as far as how water is captured, treated, et cetera. So we don't disagree with that. However, we do think that generally a car wash at this location, being contrary to the comprehensive plan recommendation for a pedestrian-friendly environment, would be detrimental to the general welfare of the public. And I want to just stop for a second to draw your attention to the handout that you have in front of you, which is from the comprehensive plan that was adopted by the Plan Commission and Town Council just last December. The handout I gave you shows the focus areas, just as you saw up on the screen, but it also gives you the specific recommendations for the Midtown District, which the plan identifies as a walkable district in the heart of Avon. That it's envisioned as you can see in the first paragraph, a transition away from transitional car-oriented development towards vibrant, pedestrian-friendly development along US Highway 36. And then over in the design principles, so just draw your attention to the sections about building orientation and connectivity that talk about arranging buildings and designing sites in a way to define streetscapes, to provide a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly space, and then to provide better multimodal connectivity, both within this Midtown district, but also to adjacent districts and neighborhoods. And so backing up and looking at the map again, when it talks about making a better pedestrian-oriented environment and connecting to other districts. As we know, the Riverwalk district here, as the south end of Easton Gray, is going to be a pedestrian-oriented mixed-use environment. And then the comp plan envisions similar type redevelopment in the Midtown district that we're talking about here. And then the Greenway North district basically would be a bridge between those two through the park properties that we've talked about that basically comprise the area between Riverwalk and Midtown. So the plan is really envisioning a different type of built environment here as this area around US 36 and Avon Avenue redevelops. So it would be a more pedestrian-friendly environment. And so the concern, sorry, skipping around, those are the variance findings. So going back to finding one for the special exception, staff's concern is that it wouldn't be met because a car wash would be contrary to the comprehensive plan recommendation, and therefore it'd be detrimental to the general welfare of the public because it would have a discouraging impact on future development on adjacent properties in a manner that would be consistent with that plan recommendation for a vibrant pedestrian-friendly area. Finding number 2, the proposed use would not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity or substantially diminish or impair property values within the specific zoning district. The petitioner indicated the proposed use will be designed in conformance with the applicable regulations and the Stanfield Crossing common development. Use is supportive of the other businesses in the vicinity. We don't believe this finding would be met. We believe that a car wash, as I mentioned already, would discourage redevelopment of adjacent properties for pedestrian-friendly uses as envisioned by the plan. So whereas building a car wash here might not have an immediate negative impact on the property values of the adjacent properties, we think long-term it would diminish future property values there because those properties should have higher property value when considering more higher density mixed use development that the plan recommends. And having a car wash here, which is a use that can only be accessed by an automobile, unlike the coffee shop, even the gas station, or the Taco Bell, all of those might be uses that are laid out in a way that are more automobile oriented, and most of their customers may come by car. Those are all uses that still provide goods or services to pedestrians that you can walk up and utilize those services. Whereas a car wash doesn't provide any reason for a pedestrian to visit the site. The only reason you would go there is that you're in a car and going to leave in a car. The third finding, the proposed use would be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, refuse, disposal, water and sewer and schools. Petitioner indicates that it would be served by common infrastructure of Stanfield Crossing and additional improvements required to comply with the applicable regulations. We concur that that finding would be met, that it would be adequately served by public facilities. The fourth required finding, the proposed use would not create excessive additional requirements at public expense for public facilities and services or be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community or result in the destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature of major importance. Petitioner's response, proposed use is part of Stanfield Crossing and overall development designed and approved to support the users of US 36. Now, we don't believe that there'd be any excessive additional public expense created by this. We don't believe there'd be any destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature. However, we would be concerned that putting a car wash in the Midtown district where the comprehensive plan recommends mixed use development and the creation of a vibrant pedestrian friendly district, that would be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community as it would discourage that type of redevelopment on adjacent properties. So we are concerned that that finding would not be met. Then moving on to your 3 optional findings for consideration. Finding number 5, the proposed special exception would meet the requirements and standards of this ordinance, and its relationship and compatibility with adjacent properties and neighborhoods would be appropriate. Petitioner responded that it meets the requirements and standards of the ordinance by adhering to zoning regulations, environmental safeguards, operational guidelines established for the district. Its design and operation will be compatible with adjacent properties through compliant landscaping and traffic management, ensuring it integrates without disrupting the character or function of the surrounding area. We don't disagree with anything the petitioner said there. Full compliance with the UDO. aside from the requested variance of development standards that's also on the agenda tonight, would be determined during a development plan review that would go to the Plan Commission. Now, while the proposed development would be generally compatible with the current nearby uses, our concern is that it would be incompatible with the future redevelopment that is recommended by the comp plan. And so for that reason, we don't think it would have great compatibility with the adjacent neighborhood as envisioned by the comp plan. Finding number 6, the proposed special exception would make adequate provision for public services, provide adequate control over vehicular traffic, provide for and protect designated common open space, and further the amenities of light and air, recreation, and visual enjoyment. Petitioner's response: the proposed use is a part of Stanfield Crossing, an overall development designed and approved for public services, managing traffic through common access points and stormwater in a common area. Staff doesn't anticipate that any additional public services would be required. We presume that there would be adequate stacking space for vehicles, and thus traffic control or vehicular traffic would be adequately controlled. And while we don't think it would have any negative impact on light and air, we find it difficult to envision how a car wash would have anything other than a negative impact on the amenities of recreation and visual enjoyment. Again, because a car wash offers no goods, services, or gathering spaces for pedestrians. And additionally, when looking at visual enjoyment, although building elevations have not been submitted from the site plan, it's clear that what this building would be a narrow facade facing US 36, and that would be dominated by an open overhead garage door and vehicles queued in front of the building adjacent to 36. That would be what would dominate the viewpoint from 36. So we're concerned. We don't think that finding would be met because we do think it would have a negative impact on recreation and visual enjoyment. And finally, finding number 7, that the proposed special exception would align with the general objectives of the comprehensive plan. The petitioner responds: the comprehensive plan identifies the subject parcel as mixed use. In alignment with the comp plan, the commercial use is complementary to surrounding developments and is served by adequate transportation and utility infrastructure. We don't disagree with what the petitioner said. However, this wouldn't be a mixed use development. It would be a single use, and as you may recall, 2 years ago, you had a special exception that came before you on this property, which was to allow a drive-through within Tier 1. That would have been for a restaurant. It was identified that it would likely be Panera. Not that the user is important, just trying to refresh your memory on that. But that plan was for a multi-tenant building, which would have had other retail spaces. And although it would have had a drive-through, and right now the majority of its customers may have came via car, it still would have been a multi-tenant building. So there would have been a mix of uses, and those uses all would be things that could serve pedestrians, even if the majority of traffic came by car. Unlike a car wash that I don't mean to sound like I'm beating up on car washes. There's plenty of appropriate places for them. They just don't offer anything to anybody that's not arriving in a car and leaving in a car. So if you're trying to develop a vibrant pedestrian-friendly area, a car wash is really incompatible with that type of district. So for that reason, we think that it would be contrary to the objectives of the comprehensive plan, and we don't believe that finding would be met. So because we do have concerns with findings 1, 2, and 4, which are required findings, and we also believe that none of the 3 optional considerations would be met, we are recommending denial of the special exception. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions for staff?
I do have some questions. I appreciate both staff's work and I appreciate the proposal presented by the petitioner. 36 and Avon Avenue is the poster child for mixed use. I mean, you could not ask for an intersection within a quarter mile. We're part of that, sitting in this building that has residential, office, retail, ice cream. I mean, we approved, I believe it was Family Promise is putting in some housing just south of there. And I'm not sure what is expected to go to the south of that lot. So I guess my concern is if you could pull up there you go. Yeah. If it was just talking about that southwest corner, I would not have a problem with this. But I think what the staff is saying is that if we make an exception in that southwest corner, we're making an exception for the whole area, and which is mixed use. And this is not, I don't see that particular section as being particularly pedestrian friendly. That particular corner as being very pedestrian friendly just because of what's already there. But I think what you're saying is that it's not just about that, it's also about the rest of that orange space, right?
Yeah, it's, again, you have more, it's certainly it would be a hard argument to make that the entire Midtown district is a vibrant pedestrian friendly, walkable district. There are, as you mentioned, a mix of uses and maybe a bigger mix coming with the residential to the south. What the plan really envisions is a lot of, at least a fair amount of redevelopment in this area over time. And so as that redevelopment occurs, we want to see each piece of that kind of add to what the plan is envisioning rather than be a step away from that. And when you try to build a mixed use, pedestrian friendly district in an area such as this, you typically see that as those pieces start to come into play, you build more momentum, but you can't really build a vibrant pedestrian friendly district kind of with a bunch of gaps in between. There's got to be
I mean,
kind of a critical mass of pedestrian, at least if not pedestrian oriented, at least pedestrian accommodating developments. And so, you can walk on 36 there. I mean, there's a sidewalk in front of this site. You can go to the other businesses to the east and west. Obviously, we need to see improvements at the intersection to really accommodate safe pedestrian travel.
yeah, I would never recommend anybody try and cross 36 at that intersection.
Right.
I mean, that's a matter of fact, I'm like, nobody, it should be banned. You should try and do that. But I know this, I
And
know the
not to
town plans on,
Yeah, not to get too far astray, but I mean, the comprehensive plan also talks about the town's goal of seeing this section of US 36 be redesigned in the future to be more pedestrian accommodating, as opposed to the area east of Production Drive, where NDOT already has plans to widen that from 4 lanes to 6. The town council has spoken out on the record to NDOT at a public hearing indicating that the town does not want to see that type of expansion come west of Production Drive, which is right where you get into the Midtown District focus area of the comp plan.
Paul, can I piggyback on that? I agree with what Paul just said about both the zoning, the UDO and the comp plan both talk about how this area will redevelop over time and what the vision is. And when I first read Paul's recommended findings on number 1, I thought, well, that seems to be number 7. But then I did some research and I looked at 210 of the UDO, and here's what it says, because I think it's pretty important. It says the purpose of the US 36 overlay zoning district is to promote and protect the public health, safety, comfort, convenience, what we always say, providing consistent and coordinated standards. Then it says this, the district is intended to serve as a tool for implementing the comprehensive plan. There's the linkage right there. And it goes on to say the corridor's character, viability, quality, and functionality are important to the town because it is in the community's prime east-west thoroughfare and also a major location for commercial uses that contribute to the local economy and as such carries high numbers of local travelers and visitors. Therefore, the purpose of the district is to preserve and enhance aesthetic qualities of properties both adjacent and visible through the corridor. And then it goes on to list several other things. But I think 1210 is your glue that links the comprehensive plan with the rest of the ordinance. So actually, after I did more reading, I kind of thought Paul was right. But I think remembering what the US 36 overlay district is for would be important as you consider the case.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Dan, for doing that. And also, it's the new comprehensive plan is new. And so we're in the early days of doing the redevelopment. If we were 5 or 6 or 10 years down the road and this came in front of us, it would be a lot more obvious that this was not a good, I would think. It would be a lot more obvious just because the development would already be happening. The redevelopment would already be happening. Like I said, taken by itself, I don't like the stacking in front of, right on 36. Taken by itself, I would have no objections. But within the context of what you said with regards to redeveloping that whole area, I think you make good argument. I think they're good arguments to support staff's report.
Paul, I had a question about the site itself. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. There are no road cuts proposed on the 36, correct?
That's correct.
And to access the site would be either off of Avon Avenue, directly across from Galen Drive, or through the drive that serves Seven Brew. Is that correct?
So the access would be, so this is just the site itself. There's US 36 to the north. This is the site. Seven Brew is right here. And so this access off of 36, which I believe we've posted a sign calling it Stanfield Way, that comes down south from 36 and then turns east and connects to Avon Avenue. So yes, the only access would be off of that private street, but you could access it traveling east on 36. There's a median there, so you can't make a left turn if you're going west on 36. And you could access it going south on Avon Avenue.
And am I correct that there's no through access to County Road 690 East?
Correct. There is no, go to the map here.
It's the same street that Brewster's is on, right?
Right.
Correct, yeah. So there's the drive right there that comes in from Avon Avenue going west and then past in between, well, it turns north and goes in between Seven Brew and Bank of America out to 36. But there is no connection across here to get to 690.
And that road that access would be on, is that a public or a private street?
It's private.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? We're ready to hear from petitioner. Way goes.
Just the left and right.
Okay.
If it's not moving, have to point it this way.
What did you say?
If it doesn't switch, just kind of point it this direction.
Okay.
Click it in.
Gotcha.
All right, well, thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate your guys' time. My name is Brendan O'Hara, and my address, do I need to read my address? Is 553 Boulderwood Lane, Carmel, Indiana. My business partner, Kevin, and I own the subject property in question, and of course, I'm here to discuss our petition for the special exception for wash and roll. But before I wanted to get into that, I wanted to share a little bit about us. My business partner, Kevin, and I are from Indianapolis, but we have a long history of real estate development and brokerage in Avon going back to 2007. Some of our projects include the Aspen Dental Vitamin Shop on Rockville in front of Meyer, the AutoZone at Beechwood Center, the Kroger expansion and fuel center across the street from our site, the one back in 11, and the sales of Eden Plaza and Avon Creek shops, to name a few. More recently, and specific to the nearby area, by which I mean the southwest quadrant of US 36 and Avon Avenue, we started on all of this development in 2020. First, we bought the old carpet store from Mike Poore and developed the Taco Bell. From there, we worked for 2 years assembling and designing Stanfield Crossing with the Beckus family, who owned a majority of the property going back several decades. The property owner that owned the house up on US 36, right in the middle of the Beckus property. Heritage Christian, who owned the Brewster's Ice Cream parcel. Bill Peoples, former Avon planner, and Steve Moore, town engineer, to design, plat, and build the lots, common drive, and drainage for Stanfield Crossing, along with the improvements to the intersection of Galen Drive. From the very beginning of all this work, everyone involved understood our development was going to focus entirely on retail commercial uses with an emphasis on fast food restaurants, banks, coffee users, and potentially car wash users. This is confirmed by our plat documents from October and November of 2022. As well, and as Paul mentioned, the town gave us a special exception for a drive-through for Panera back in '24, but Panera ended up rejecting the site at a corporate level. They wanted the store to be a smaller footprint than normal at 2,400 square feet and based heavily on drive-through business. We wanted them to build the larger normal 4,500 square foot prototype with indoor dining, but they did not want to pursue this. Most single-tenant retailers active in building new stores today are transitioning to smaller in-store footprints and smaller sales areas with more emphasis on drive-through business. I think it's important to provide all of this history in a few different contexts. First, we have and are heavily invested in this area. And by we, I mean Kevin and I, along with you guys, of course. Second, we have an intimate, long-standing knowledge and history of the area. And lastly, we do want to see compatible and appropriate safe development. Our investment decisions in coordination with the town's planning decisions, as well as those in and around the site, for example, the approval of the Crew Car Wash back in 16 or 17 and the Valvoline to the east in 21, I believe, dictate that this is an appropriate site for a car wash and will not be detrimental to the public's health or safety. Furthermore, we do understand the need for walkable, connected developments, and we don't see the car wash as an impediment to this idea, but rather to be developed in conjunction with it. This is why when we went through design and platting of the site with the town, we built the walking path in front of the development. The real issue is it needs to be connected through the Circle K property so it can connect to the southbound sidewalk system along the west side of Avon Avenue, as well as west on US 36 past our development, through the medical office building properties and beyond. Once these connections are made, the area will be more walkable and connected. An area is walkable because it has a thorough and complete walking path system to carry people from the neighborhoods to the commercial areas and back, not really because of any one specific use or user. This is a slide from INDOT's traffic website. Regarding the comp plan amendment that Paul mentioned from last year and the amendment specifically designating this area for mixed-use development, a car wash wants to locate on this site because it's at the intersection of two of the busiest roads in the Indianapolis MSA, with 43,000 plus cars a day running through them. INDOT shows 30,000 cars per day on US 36 right in front of the site and roughly 14,000 cars per day on Avon Avenue south of US 36. This alone is why the other car-heavy commercial users in the area like Kroger, McDonald's, etc., have located in this area, because of the heavy traffic. If anything about this site is injurious or detrimental to the walkability of pedestrians, it's those thousands of cars driving in close proximity to the walking path day in and day out, not that cars would stack and slowly enter the Wash and Rolls drive-through. Here's a photo from the northeast corner of the intersection of US 36 and Avon Avenue looking at the site. This photo was taken at 2 p.m. yesterday, which is generally not a busy time of day for most places. As you can see, the area is packed with cars. I'm guessing it's much busier at peak times. You guys know this because you live in the area. It is insanely busy. Here's a photo of the 7 Brew at the same time yesterday, and it has 3 or 4 cars in the drive-through lane from what I can tell. I will also note this 7 Brew is a drive-through only operation. So the precedent for this type of business and use in this area has already been set with us and you guys. I had actually forgotten when I was out there, the Circle K has a crappy little car wash right next door. All the more need, in my opinion, for a brand new aesthetically pleasing option. This point underscores the fact that neighboring property values will not be diminished by this proposal. Back to the comp plan amendment again. And it designating this area for mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly development. It seems to me the logical stopping point of the car-centric development that I'm talking about is everything to the west of Stanfield Crossing and the Kroger Center light. You can see it very clearly on the attached aerial map, as well as when you drive west on US 36. The largest and most obvious reason to me for this demarcation is that there are large plots of vacant land to develop. And I believe the Republic project is located in this area as well and is a prime example of an appropriate spot for it. Hopefully, in closing, hopefully this overall history and context accurately conveys these types of developments, car washes and car-centric users have their place, of which this site is one. And because of supply and demand, as well as all of the past decisions, the town's and ours, this proposed development, or if not Wash and Roll, then a car-centric business like it will want to locate here in the future. That's just a fact. Thank you for your time. I respectfully ask that you please approve our special exception request for our proposed use. We believe Wash and Roll is an appropriate use for the site given the existing area, and hopefully they will be a nice and successful addition to the Avon community. I just wanted to add, in terms of the findings, I believe I've demonstrated that the car wash will not be detrimental to the public's health and safety given the existing landscape. Property values will not be injured due to the immediate vicinity or substantially diminishing or impairing property values within this specific zoning district. We are tying into existing public facilities that we built in coordination with you guys when we platted the property. The development won't create excessive additional requirements at public expense for facilities and services and won't harm the economic welfare of the community. And I believe I've shown that the car wash is compatible in scale and relationship with adjacent properties and neighborhoods. So, thank you.
Thank you. It is 7:15. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is anyone signed up to speak?
There's 2 others signed up, but I believe they're both with the petitioner.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to speak during the public hearing at this time? And with no one coming forward, we will close the public hearing at 7:16. Discussions, questions? We'll open it up.
I have a question. First, I'd like to say thank you. Appreciate the involvement that you've had in Avon, the development over the years. I think we've benefited from the things that you've helped bring here. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Paul.
When you were looking at this development, how do you see the value of adding a car wash next to a car wash down the street from another car wash. That's where I'm like, I don't see the value, the business value for bringing in a car wash when you've got two car washes in close proximity.
Yeah, I think the answer, whether you may or may not agree, but I think the answer to the question is competition in retail business always, I mean, almost always, and Kevin jump in, but it almost always equals a better customer experience. So in this example, I would say, hopefully the wash and roll doesn't have business to shut the car wash for Circle K down because it drives the business so low that they take away that use. I think there's a practical, is the question you're asking for this hearing, are we talking about what is appropriate or what is desired, right?
I'm focused on the car wash, just the car wash, not.
Yeah, but I mean, I think isn't part of what you're saying is like, there's already 2 or 3 car washes there. We don't need another car wash is kind of where you maybe the question is pointed.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would just say, I think the answer is that, and it may be counterintuitive, but that in business, particularly retail business, competition breeds quality because it forces people to get better. Like this will, I'm sure, I actually shop at, I go through Crew. I think they provide a pretty good service. I'm sure this will probably make them up their game a little bit. So.
Okay, thank you.
How do you respond to staff's assertions that this is contrary to our future plans for that area? As you just heard, and I was on the Comprehensive Plan Commission that helped develop that. We spent a
remember.
lot of time.
Oh, well, this or ours, because I think you were on our plan commission too, back in 22.
I don't think, well, I'm on the Plan Commission, but I was also on the Comprehensive Steering Committee.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, and we have a lot of future plans for that district, that area. And a car wash, as staff pointed out, is contrary to how we want to develop that area. Right now, if this area was going to stay the way it was, I would say, yeah, it makes sense to put one there. But all of the objections that staff has presented is that it contradicts what we're planning to do for the future. So how do you address that?
You can jump in anytime, but I think for us, certainly I understand that, and I think Linda and Paul are new, but when we started all this development going back to 2020, we along with Bill Peoples and the Plan Commission made decisions about this development. This is new development. This land was never developed.
Right.
Going back to
There's an old house there, I think.
Right, exactly. So it's a little bit confusing for me when, like, Paul uses the term redevelopment. I mean, this is new development, and this was recently planned development. I don't know if I'm answering the question, but to us, does it make sense that we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because we started planning this in 2021 and then you guys did a comp plan amendment, but we had made these plans pretty much in conjunction with you guys that the lots from, I think that the lots from here, and here, we're all going to be retail.
So can you stay in front of the microphone? And so when you made those plans, though, you were working with staff. We never heard anything until the cases are brought in front of us. So were you making the plans for a car wash at the time? Because you brought an eatery to begin with, a restaurant, for this particular plot. So when you say that, I'm like, I didn't expect a car wash because you didn't bring a car wash the first time.
Well, I'm making comments to her question about the longer term planning of our site, not specifically about the car wash use.
Right, but you had mentioned that earlier that in talking with staff, the different types of businesses, and you mentioned car wash.
Yeah, I mean, we had plenty of discussions with
Having been on the Plan Commission and BZA for years, I don't remember You can question my memory, and that's fine. I won't argue that.
I was speaking,
I remember the car wash.
no, I was speaking about our discussions with Bill Peoples and Steve Moore.
Okay.
Not about. not
I
with-
guess my better question
al-
is,
Although I do think you and Catherine were on the plan commission.
we've both
when
been on
we-
the plan commission for a few years.
Yeah, so I think you guys were on when we took our plat through.
For the multi-use
Right.
development.
Yeah, for Stanfield Crossing, everything in yellow.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, we would not have talked about, I don't think, maybe specific uses in any meetings.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, so yes, we were both on, and we were actually both on the steering committee for the comprehensive plan. So that was approved for redevelopment, but since then, we now have a comprehensive plan that has put more requirements on it. So how do you overcome the arguments by staff that this does not meet with our comprehensive plan objectives? How do you overcome that?
Well, I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can, but I mean, I made several points, and I can go back to them about why this area is appropriate for a car wash. It has to do with the heavy traffic and the existence of 2 car washes in the immediate area. Now, come on.
And make sure you state your name and address, please.
It's Kevin Broderick, 1156 Angelique Court, Carmel, Indiana. I think to Brennan's point, it's, the plan thinks of redevelopment and change in the future, which, obviously we're not going to argue against. We both live in the northern suburbs, but they've gone through stuff like this as well, and we fully understand it. But I guess I think what Brennan was trying to say is talking about redevelopment of an area that we just planned less than 5 years ago, is a little, I don't want to say premature, but it's like this is the last piece of something we started 5 years ago. And at that time, I guess the comprehensive plan was different. So we're trying to follow that. And, now we're left with one lot that can't be, some big mixed use walkable project. We're talking about I think it's 1.62 acres with part of it being the common drive behind it. And then kind of on top of that, we've got, obviously tenants can come and go, but theoretically you have, Taco Bell was a 20-year lease with, I think 30 years of options when we did it. Bank of America 15, Seven Brew 15. So there's, the redevelopment, I'm not saying it won't happen at some point, but it feels like we're finishing a development more than we're jumping into redeveloping this area. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I think the word redevelopment we're talking redevelopment about that whole section, not just your plot. We're talking about that whole area.
Correct. And yes.
And so when you say, why are we talking about redeveloping? Well, we're not talking about tearing down Bank of America and Taco Bell and all those. We're just talking about within the context of that whole area, we have a plan. And most of what has been put on your plot or plat, has met what we're looking for, stuff where people can walk up to Brewster's and get an ice cream or go into Taco Bell or whatever. But the problem is that the car wash is not a pedestrian friendly thing. As a matter of fact, you don't want pedestrians within that space because you've got so many vehicles.
And the Seven Brew is not, I think Paul said you can walk up and grab a coffee. That's actually not correct. Seven Brew is a drive-through only concept. You have to be in a car to access Seven Brew. So, and I don't know Brewster's business as well because I think they have interior, but I don't know where their stuff. But for like next door to us, it is 100% drive-through and pedestrian.
Also, I would point out, just if we could go through, I think the real opportunities for redevelopment in this specific area are this, Tonsil, and this. But Kroger just did a humongous investment, so they're not going anywhere. McDonald's, unless you guys took action somehow to get them out, right? McDonald's isn't going anywhere. As Kevin pointed out, these guys are all on 15 to 20-year leases. I think Chase is rebuilding, right?
Right.
So, and we do business with them. They're committed to that site. Crew and Baldwin just built. I don't know about Hackleman. I just drove, driven this a million times, but I drove it the other day. Napa looks like a fairly new building, Frostbite's at community. You know, it's been there forever, a community institution, and then you've got the schools. So that's where I say specifically in this area, it just feels like for this last lot, you know, does a car wash meet the comp plan? No, but there's really only two big sites in here that could even be redeveloped. And we've talked to the town manager's Ryan, right? We've talked to Ryan about this at one point. You know, I know Tonkville, unless you know, the last I heard, they would never sell, but those are the two options. But then you get to, that's what I was saying at the end of my presentation. This is where, because the large tracts of land they're all in here, this is where the pedestrian-friendly, mixed-use type stuff is gonna happen anyway, because these are undeveloped lots. And this is all heavy commercial. You know, I understand that you've caught it in the comp plans, but practically, just very practically, and it's kind of why I said it in closing, you know, if it's not wash and roll, it's gonna be, we don't control demand, right? Demand is set, the market sets demand. The only way communities actually, and Carmel's a good example, the only way communities can steer demand in a way is to start to participate in the cost side of getting things developed. That's really how they steer demand to like what you're talking about, if it's not already there. And I can tell you that this site,
Mr. O'Hara,
22 years.
can you just get closer to the mic so we can make sure we're picking you up on the record?
So if you can, I mean, unless somebody wants to allow them to go ahead and speak, I mean, this is our kind of a deliberation time. And
Okay.
so the thing that, you know, I appreciate some of the information you provided, and I will look more closely at future cases that have just drive-through traffic now, because I think that's a good point. And I think that was something we need to consider, is making sure that is just drive-through traffic business appropriate wherever they're being proposed. So, you know, that's something that you've made me think about. It's a special exception to get a car wash. And I think staff's done a good job of going through and look at the criterion and looking what our comp plan and the overlay indicate. And I agree with them. I mean, to do an infill project, development and redevelopment, you know, choose your word, but to put a business in there, a car wash, requiring a special exception, I don't think it meets what we're looking. I don't support it. I think staff has done a good job. I agree with what they put in with the criterion, which is what we should be considering. And I support that. I don't support this business, and I support staff's recommendation for denial.
I'd just like to go back to the vehicular access issue. And number one, I agree with you. This is very car centric as developed today. You've got, I'm typically not in town at 2:00. I am here in the mornings. I am here in the evenings. And I'll tell you what, that 7 Brew stacks out onto that collector street. And in the evenings, Brewster's, now that the weather's turning, in January is a different story, but now that the weather's changed, Brewster's is a bit of a monster. That is a lot of automobile-centric business. I'm worried about it overwhelming that private street that's in there.
It's that Southern banana pudding ice cream. And pardon me, I'm almost overflowing into the next case here. I totally understand what you're saying about redevelopment. What's there is relatively new development. It's probably not going to redevelop for 50 years. You had up a map here of the area to the west and what you called all the developable land. Well, all those arrows but one you had pointing to was parkland. And the fourth was Easton Gray, which is under development right now, which is where the new town hall is going to be. I understand the need to plan out that far. My concern with this one is really focused on criteria 2 and 6.
about, criteria 6 talks about the adequate provision of public services. 2 is about injurious enjoyment of other property in the immediate area. Today, this is kind of a nice retail area, and we're going to put down a car wash in the middle. And I'm not saying you can't make a car wash look good on the building, but at the end of the day, 3/4 of it is car traffic. I just think this is too intense of a use, and that's why it's a special exception in the first place.
This has 2 lanes going into the car wash, right? If I'm looking at I know, because I live very close to here, south on Avon Avenue, and am in an intersection a lot. And I've used Crew, and they've got 5 lanes, I think, and it gets backed up to that, is that Garner? To that street. And so I can't imagine that the same thing wouldn't happen here, except it's in a much tighter space.
It's a very tight space.
Very, yeah.
Can you come to the microphone if you're going to make comments, please?
So this was the other part of the petition. The engineer on behalf of Washington, because Brent and I are just the underlying landowners. I believe he has some stats on the volume, how long people are there, the idling in the front yard, which goes into the second part of it. But,
Well, like you said, that really goes into the second
well,
part.
I just mean, because you had said Crew backs up and stuff,
Yeah.
and that has to do with Crew's volume is, they're the leader in car washes probably in the Midwest. So their volume is different than wash and rolls. And I can't speak to it. I don't know the numbers, but I know he has them.
Good evening, Jordan Baker, 1805 West Wisteria Lane, Scottsburg, Indiana. The current capacity proposed for this wash and roll is approximately let me grab my numbers real quick. It's approximately 140 cars per hour, which is just under 30 seconds per rotation. So really most of your queue space is going to be behind that pay station, and it's going to be a continuous loop of traffic as they exit the pay station and move around the loop to the north and go into the entrance to the tunnel of the car wash. Under normal conditions, obviously.
And then they have an option of exiting onto the private road or exiting so they can get to Avon Avenue or to 36.
Correct. They could move over to the other lot, or they could also use the vacuums that are set up in the parking area there to the west of the building.
Right. If this was in a vacuum, I would have problems I would have a lot of questions about the way the building is oriented towards 36 and other questions. And as I said, if this was in a vacuum, I would think that this was, that makes sense to put that there with all the traffic and everything. But within the context of how we are envisioning what is going to happen at that intersection, we've got several homes that at some point I'm sure are going to be acquired and developed. I have to respect the comprehensive plan, especially since I was sitting on the steering committee for that and was part of the group of 20, 25 people who approved it. And it's not a pedestrian friendly proposal. And that's, if that's what we're going to do, then we need to do that. And, we have to look at not just ordinances and stuff, but what is our intent? So
can I say something? I know you may have a motion coming and all of that, but I just say 2 things. First, please remember your factors. And if there's a factor that drives your decision, mention that. Secondly, I would just say, we've had a lot of discussion tonight about whether or not, factor number 7 had a lot of discussion, could be a barrier here, but just a reminder, the way your UDO works, the petitioner would not have to come see you. They're C2. You can look at your use table. There are lots and lots and lots of permitted uses. They don't need your approval, and they don't need that use to comply with the new comp plan. Don't need to be here. However, because it's a car wash, which as Marcus said earlier is a special exception, now they have to ask you to look at this in the context of the new comp plan. So that's why they're here. They don't have to be here. This once they make that decision, they get put in a different lane, and here they come. But if you look at, I'm looking at the use table, if you look at 3.2 and you look at C2, why, boy, there's a lot of things they could do there. This is the one where a different set of criteria gets applied now that involves a comp plan. So, I think that as you go through it, and you've had lots of discussion about that and lots of discussion about, well, we could put other things there. That's correct. They could put a lot of things there without ever getting your approval. But for this use, the ordinance says they have to get your approval, and the law says they have to satisfy all of these factors. This is not a totality. This is a special exception. So they have to have yes on every one of these. And so as you get to the final parts of your deliberation, just remind you of that. And then finally, just say, if they can satisfy all 7, remember you have no discretion then. If they can satisfy all 7, they get an approval. This is not like a variance. A variance, you still have discretion even if they do, but on a special exception, we don't see a lot of special exceptions. Just remember, it's a little different. So as you go through your deliberations, please remember those things.
It's all 7 and not the first 4?
Well, under their ordinance, the law says you have to satisfy those 4, and then you may consider, if they put it in the ordinance, those 3 additional considerations.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But they've chosen, the town of Avon has chosen to add those as factors, which they didn't have to do. Do whatever you want.
Questions, discussion? Anything?
I suggest we just go through the criteria. Sometimes that's the easiest way to, staff has given us a really excellent report in terms of what they see. First criteria is proposed use would not be detrimental to the public's health, safety, or general welfare. And I think general welfare is where we fall into it because it is contrary to the comprehensive plan. I don't have any doubt that a car wash would follow every single rule with regards to runoffs and sanitary sewage discharge and all of that kind of stuff.
And I agree with what staff has written on there.
Yeah. It's contrary to the comprehensive plan recommendation for a pedestrian-friendly environment. So I think that's really where everything comes down to, is that we now have, unlike when this whole area was approved for development, we now have a comprehensive plan in place that puts in additional requirements. And number 2, proposed use would not be injurious to the use, diminish or impair property values. Well, if it's not pedestrian friendly, I don't know that property values is a thing, but it has to be pedestrian friendly. And if we make this exception, this special exception, we've set a precedent.
Well, I want to make sure we don't set precedents. No one case is a precedent for any future cases. So I would not agree with what you're saying there. And I don't think we should say that, because a case does not set a precedent for future cases.
I would agree. I'm thinking in terms of, it opens the door to other businesses coming in and wanting to ask for the same thing and then using this as an argument for, well, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. It doesn't legally set a precedent, but it creates an impression, I guess. Yeah, I think I have to agree with the staff on this. And I don't, I don't object to the business. This location is just not the appropriate place for it. That's where I am.
And again, I think Dan pointed out, they can come in, anyone can come in under the existing zoning and do restaurants and do things. They could do a car wash if it weren't a special exception. So and I was on that committee too that did the comp plan. And I like our comp plan and I respect our comp plan, but people do have the right to develop the things that are currently allowed. So I guess I'm less concerned with the comp plan portion of this. I think they've checked out the box for number one. Where I've got the big hang up is criteria 2, which is, talk about property values, be injurious to the use and enjoyment. Again, I think it's too intense of a use. I think it's mostly cars. It's not necessarily attractive development. It's useful, but I don't think it fits the character of what we were looking for there. I question number 4, whether it would create additional requirements at public expense or facilities. Again, there's that private road there, and I'm really worried about whether that's adequate for all the stacking. And as I mentioned before, I've also got a hang up on criteria 6, which is about the adequate provision of public services. Any other discussion? Would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we deny SE 2601 wash and roll, a special exception to allow for a car wash within Tier 1 of the U.S. Highway 36 Overlay District because it will not meet all the requirements for a special exception under state law, subject to the adopted findings of fact.
Motion by Mr. Guckenberger. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Ransberg. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Guckenberger,
4.
Ransberg,
4.
Cashler,
4.
Turner.
4. Okay. And with that. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So now we don't need to go to the variance. Yeah.
Dan, is there, with respect to the next case for the variance, that's kind of a moot point now? Is there anything special we have to do to?
Yeah, usually we just deem them withdrawn unless the owners have an objection, but I think there's they don't need the variance now under their proposed use. So that's how we usually do that, deem withdrawn.
Okay.
So we don't have to do anything? Okay.
Very good. On to other business? Do we have anything there?
We have no additional business.
Okay. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.